Have you ever wondered what the British Empire was really like? We often hear about the empire on which the sun never set, a legacy of railways, law, and language. But is that the full story? What was the true price of this global dominion? Let's peel back the layers and look at what Britain really did to its colonies. First, let's talk about the economy. Before the British arrived, many regions, like India, had thriving industries. For instance, India was a world leader in textiles. But British policy systematically dismantled this. They imposed high tariffs on Indian goods while flooding the market with cheap British-made textiles from Manchester. This process, known as deindustrialization, pushed millions of Indian artisans out of work and into poverty, transforming a manufacturing powerhouse into a supplier of raw cotton for British factories. It wasn't about fair competition, it was about economic domination. The same pattern was repeated across the globe. Colonies were restructured to serve one primary purpose: to enrich Britain. Their natural resources, from rubber in Malaya to gold in South Africa, were extracted and shipped back to the mother country, with very little of the wealth staying behind to benefit the local population. This created a lasting economic dependency that many nations are still struggling to overcome today. Then there's the human cost. The empire was built and maintained through force. Uprisings and resistance were met with brutal suppression. Think of the Boer War in South Africa, where the British pioneered the use of concentration camps, leading to the deaths of tens of thousands of women and children from disease and starvation. Or the Mau Mau uprising in Kenya, where systematic torture and mass detentions were used to crush the rebellion. These weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern of control. The Amritsar massacre in 1919, where British troops fired into a peaceful crowd of unarmed Indians, killing hundreds, became a symbol of colonial brutality. This violence wasn't just physical. It was psychological. The colonial system was built on an ideology of racial superiority, which classified colonized peoples as inferior and justified their subjugation. This legacy of trauma and division still echoes in many former colonies. Another devastating impact was the creation of artificial borders. In the scramble for Africa, European powers, including Britain, sat down with a map and drew lines that cut across ethnic, linguistic, and cultural groups. Communities that had lived together for centuries were split apart, while rival groups were forced into the same newly created state. In Nigeria, for example, the British merged over 250 distinct ethnic groups into a single colony. These arbitrary borders paid no attention to the people on the ground and have been the source of immense conflict, civil wars, and instability in the post-colonial era. The partition of India in 1947 is another tragic example. The hurried and poorly planned division into India and Pakistan led to one of the largest and most violent mass migrations in human history, with up to 2 million people losing their lives and millions more displaced. The conflict over Kashmir, a direct result of this partition, continues to this day. Famines were another grim feature of British rule. While famines did exist before, British policies often made them far worse. In Ireland during the Great Famine, the country was still exporting vast quantities of food to England while millions of its own people starved. In India, under the British Raj, an estimated 30 to 40 million people died in major famines. The British administration prioritized profit and laissez-faire economic principles over human lives. Grain was often exported from famine-stricken regions because it could fetch a higher price elsewhere. The Bengal famine of 1943, during World War II, is a stark example. While Winston Churchill's government diverted food supplies for the war effort, millions in Bengal starved to death. This wasn't just a natural disaster, it was a catastrophic failure of policy rooted in indifference. Of course, proponents of the empire point to certain developments as justification. They talk about the railways, the legal systems, and the English language. And yes, Britain did build thousands of miles of railways in India. But what was their purpose? They weren't primarily built to benefit the Indian people. They were constructed to transport troops quickly to quell rebellions and to efficiently move raw materials from the interior to the ports for export to Britain. The legal systems imposed often replaced traditional structures and favored the colonizers. And while English became a global language, it also served to create a small, educated elite who could help administer the colony, often at the expense of indigenous languages and cultures. These gifts of empire were, in reality, tools of control and exploitation, designed to make the colonial project more efficient and profitable. They were byproducts of a system, not its primary goal. The social and cultural impact was also profound. Colonial rule introduced a hierarchy based on race, with white Europeans at the top. This created deep-seated divisions and a sense of inferiority that persisted long after independence. Education systems were designed not to empower, but to create clerks and low-level administrators for the colonial machine. Indigenous cultures, traditions, and knowledge systems were often dismissed as primitive and backward, leading to a loss of cultural identity. This cultural erosion is one of the most insidious and long-lasting legacies of colonialism. So, when we look back at the British Empire, it's crucial to see the complete picture. The story isn't just about impressive buildings and a common language. It's a story of economic exploitation that crippled local industries, of brutal violence used to maintain control, of artificial borders that sowed the seeds of future conflicts, and of policies that led to catastrophic famines and the loss of millions of lives. Recognizing this complex and often painful history is not about assigning guilt, it's about understanding the world we live in today. The economic disparities, political instabilities, and social tensions in many parts of the globe are not accidental. They are direct consequences of a colonial past. Acknowledging the true cost of empire is the first step towards a more honest and equitable understanding of our shared global history. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video insightful, please hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more deep dives into history. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. See you next time.